Yo, what is going on, guys? You got Glop, and today I am bringing you the final portion of my week 1 for the RBCT. So this is versus xGang. We're going to be reviewing games 5, 6, and 7. Starting off here, we're in Generation 4, and it makes a lot of sense as a counter pick from Gang since he is quite experienced in the older generations. So before we get into this game, my team was Marowak, Metagross, Torterra, Dugong, Dunsparce, and Vileplume. So not the greatest selection of Pokemon, but I know that Metagross is pretty great, so I expected to put in a decent amount of work. So turn 1, we're going to be starting off with Marowak versus Girafarig, and right here I realized that I'm in a pretty great position. Girafarig isn't the strongest Pokemon, and I know that Marowak has a good Spadef stat, so I know I can tank hits pretty well. I'm actually going to opt to throw off a Double Edge on turn 1 here. Just in case he had something like a ground type switch in on his team, I figured he might want to reveal that in the first turn, expecting an Earthquake. As I'm able to follow it up with a Thunder Punch in the following turn, again, scouting for a potential Flying type or Levitator in the back. He's going to reveal Regice, and I realize immediately that Regice is a huge threat to my team. I believe I did not have any hazards on this team, so the only way I'm getting damage on Regice is by hitting it, and I'm sure that he's not going to allow me to do that very often. Either way, I'm going to pivot into Metagross on the Ice Beam. Not going to do a whole lot of damage. And I believe I throw off a Zen Headbutt here, just in the off chance that, you know, he switched to something that would take a Steel move, but not a Psychic move, so maybe like a Fire type. Either way, Kabutops comes in here, and I know this is a perfect opportunity to switch in my Torterra, since it can take these physical hits very well. I believe in this turn I'm going to throw off a Leech Seed, I want to say. Yeah, I go for Leech Seed, just kind of scouting what his response to Torterra is. And this is going to allow me to pivot into my Dugong, because I don't mind if Dugong takes a Will-O-Wisp. It's a special attacker, so, you know, residual damage on it, not the biggest deal. You know, I don't think Dugong's going to be winning this game for me. And then I believe here I actually pull a double switch. Yeah, I'm expecting Regice to come out, knowing that it can tank Surfs very well. But he's also going to double instead into his Mew. So I did a little bit of research, you know, seeing, okay, what does Mew get in this format? I wanted to scout for a Will-O-Wisp or a Flamethrower. So I'm going to send out my Dugong here, and this is going to work out a lot better for Gang, because he's going to get up a Stealth Rocks. And I've got Dugong that's weak to it, and my team doesn't really appreciate entry hazards, so it's kind of annoying. Anyways, I'm going to continue surfing the Spiritomb as he again misses a Wisp, which is unfortunate, but, you know, in this generation it's 75 accuracy, so it's kind of expected. They called it Will-O-Miss back in my day. Anyhow, he's going to pivot now into Regice to take the Surf. And I believe on this turn, I go into Dunsparce, and my reasoning behind this was I kind of wanted to scout if he had Thunder Wave, which it turns out he does. So knowing that, I'm expecting this thing to actually not have Rest. It's most likely going to be a 3 attacks with Thunder Wave, which is good in the sense that I can whittle it down. But again, I don't have hazards, so it's kind of harder to do that. If he plays it smart, there's not a lot I can do. So I believe here I'm just going to throw off a Body Slam, or I might double switch. Let's see here. I should double switch. Yeah, again, expecting a switch out. And I believe I just throw off a Meteor Mash on this turn. And then this next turn, Gang makes a really solid play. This was definitely the point where I think I threw the game. So I'll talk a little bit about it. I'm expecting some kind of recovery, like a Roost or Soft Boiled from this Mew. So my thought process was, okay, let me go for Explosion. Because if I take out Mew, then my Torterra or my Vileplume have a really good shot at winning this game later on. So I do just that, and Gang makes a very nice call, reads that, and goes in the Spiritomb.
Mission failed. We'll get him next time.
And here I am really on the back burner, so I've got to go into Marowak. I know I outspeed. I can Revenge Kill with Earthquake, but Kabutops comes in, and I just have to let Marowak go down. I don't really see another opportunity that I'm going to get to switch it in. This does allow me, however, to go into my Torterra, and I can start throwing off some really strong Wood Hammers, as Wigglytuff is revealed, and I believe I just go for another one. Yeah, I go for another one, because I figured, okay, let me try to get a high roll. If I get a high roll, then, you know, I'm looking in good shape. But he actually pulls a switch in Regice, which I felt was better for me, because any damage on this thing is very much appreciated. So I'm actually going to let Torterra go down, I believe. Oh no, I go into Dugong, hoping to go into it on an Ice Beam, but he predicts that very well, and goes for a Focus Blast. So I kind of have to let Dugong go down, unfortunately. However, this is going to provide me an opportunity to go out into my Torterra again, and I can throw off another wood hammer trying to whittle this thing down, because at this point my game plan is to try to go for a late game Sunny Day sweep with Vileplume. So I'm going to let Dunsparce come in here. I don't mind this thing's health. I really don't need it for anything. As he realizes that, Regice's health is probably important since I haven't revealed my last, which makes a lot of sense. So it's a little bit annoying here. I got attracted from Q-Charm, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to get off an attack this turn, and he's able to kind of just chip away at me with these body slams. I do get paralysis here. Not the craziest thing in the world since I do have Serene Grace, but it's not really going to matter because he can just go for Double Edge, and at this point, Dunsparce is in range of Ice Beam. Which again is smart for him going into that Pokemon. I think at this point he realized that it's a huge threat to my team. And it's unfortunate because now I have to go for Sunny Day, just barely tanking that Ice Beam. And the worst part about all this is that I did not have Hidden Power Fire, which really sucked. I think I had like Sunny Day, Moonlight, Solar Beam, and Sludge Bomb. So at this point I have to go for a crit. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get it. And that is going to seal off Game 5 here. So definitely very well played on Gang's part, reading the explosion and playing around Metagross. Like, Metagross should have destroyed his team, but I think he did an excellent job pivoting around and really managing, his assets. So I'm going to switch over now into Game 6, and we'll be back. Alright, so for Game 6, we are playing Generation 5. This was my counter pick versus Gang. My team was Probopass, Victini, Kabutops, Kecleon, Virizion, and Ledian. So, starting off the battle, I've got Probopass on the field while he reveals Sigilyph. And immediately I'm scared because I know that Sigilyph usually runs Cosmic Power and some kind of like stored power cheese. I don't want to let this thing get out of hand. So I'm actually going to Volt Switch out immediately into my Victini. And my reason for doing this is that Victini's got Trick. So I can trick it a Choice Scarf or a Choice Band and essentially get rid of Sigilyph because it can't set up and recover at the same time if it's locked into one move. So, I know that Gang's a pretty experienced player. I'm sure he knows what Victini does. So, I'm actually going to make an offensive play. I'm going to go for U-turn, knowing that he's not going to allow Sigilyph to get tricked. And this is going to provide me a switch into Kabutops, which is actually going to allow me to pick up a KO with Stone Edge, which is amazing. So, I've already got the favor when it comes to, the Sack War. Anyways, I'm going to pivot here into Kecleon on the Lantern, knowing that, Volt Switch or Scald is probably going to come out, as he's going to make the Volt Switch play, go out into Articuno. So this immediately, makes me think that he's probably going to try to go for Substitute or Toxic, something like that. This is going to allow me to bring in my Probopass, as he opts to set up a Substitute, which isn't a huge deal, because I know that Articuno can't do a whole lot to Probopass. So I'm going to be staying in here going for Power Gem, because I know at some point I'll have an opportunity to throw off Toxic, which I actually expect to switch from here on this turn, but it does not work out for me. So I have to follow up with another Power Gem, but I'm actually going to make the call again, expecting a switch on his part, and I'm able to catch the Blissey upon switching with Toxic, which isn't a huge deal since it has Natural Cure. But what this does allow me to do is pull a switch into my Kabutops, and I can start again threatening his team with Stone Edge, because at this point, it doesn't look like there's any resist on his side. Unfortunately though, I believe I end up getting paralyzed on this turn. Yep. So I'm still going to try to throw off a Stone Edge here, as I'm able to actually land this time. And now that his entire team has been revealed, I can see that Virizion is a huge threat to his team. It outspeeds everything. It has Swords Dance and Stone Edge, so it can knock out Articuno and Sigilyph respectively. So I'm going to actually pull a switch here into Virizion, knowing that he's likely just going to go for another Crunch. And that's going to provide me with an attack boost. So he realizes that this is a terrible position for him. He's going to let my Yana go down to the Leaf Blade. And then I think right here, this play, like, it looks questionable, but I understand what Gang was going for. He basically has to bank off of me choking, because so Lantern lives a +1 Leaf Blade. So his thought process is that if he sacks off this Blissey to close combat, I'll be at -1 Spadef, and then Choice Specs Lantern can knock out Virizion in the following turn with Ice Beam. So like, I was a little bit confused in the moment why he went for this play. But then when he so confidently goes out into Lantern, that's when I decided to run the calc, and I found out the Leaf Blade is not KO, and I know that Ice Beam would KO. So I understood his game plan there, but I'm not going to let him do that. I'm actually going to pull a switch out into my Ledian to take this Ice Beam, which takes it very comfortably. It's going to allow me an opportunity to get up a light screen, and then I believe I just U-turn out on the next turn, because I'm trying to maintain some offensive pressure. So I do just U-turn out, go into Kabutops again because I'm seeing no Stone Edge switch-ins. But unfortunately, I believe I get paralyzed once again. Yeah, which would have sucked because Articuno would have died right there and it basically would have been game. So I'm going to be forced into a position where I have to keep Articuno in check. So I have to just keep throwing off Power Gems. And it's a little bit annoying because this thing can like kind of stall me out of PP, but not really because it's going to run out of Roost eventually. And Power Gem is just doing way too much damage. So I'll probably speed this part up a little bit. Let's see. He goes for another sub. I go for Power Gem. And then here he pulls a switch out into Lantern. And I believe here I just opt to sack off my Kabutops, realizing that it's paralyzed. It's probably not going to get another opportunity to throw off any more attacks. That's going to allow him to go back into Articuno. And I'm going to go back into Probopass. And here I make kind of a stupid play. This is one of those plays where you get lost in the sauce, so to speak. I try to double out into my Virizion, expecting Lantern in his part. Which, like, it makes sense, but he just opts to throw off a Roost, which was a totally fine play. He could have well subbed, expecting Toxic, so I feel like the play made a lot more sense for him, looking back on it. Either way, I'm going to be forced out, don't want to take a Hurricane or an Ice Beam, so I'm going to bring back in a Probopass, and I realize, okay, I just have to keep throwing off Power Gems. As this turn, he actually makes the Lantern switch, so good on him, but I know that Volt Switch is coming out. I've got, my Virizion, I've got Kecleon, I got a lot of answers to it, so it makes sense for him to go for Volt Switch, trying to like bring the game back into his favor. So I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to throw off another Power Gem, expecting that Volt Switch, which is good because I hit Articuno, but again, this thing can just keep down roosting, so I've got to keep going for Power Gem, whittling it down, and eventually here, I'm actually going to pull the trigger, and I'm going to go for Toxic, so I believe it's on the following turn. Yeah, right here when he's at 3%, I know that he is forced to Roost, which is going to allow me to get off a Toxic and put this Articuno on a timer. And that's really going to be great for my Virizion because once Articuno goes down, I don't even need a Sword Stance to finish off the game. So I pull switch into my Victini, just because I know I can, threaten him with V-Create and go for U-turn. As I do just that, and I believe I go to my Probopass. He goes for Toxic. I think he should have Ice Beamed, but again, it's kind of a hard, position to be in for him, so I don't know. Either way, it's going to go down to Power Gem in the following turn, and I'm always going to go hard Victini on Sigilyph. I'm never going to give it an opportunity to start, setting up Cosmic Powers and potentially sweep my team. And Gay makes an excellent play here, goes into Lantern, knowing that I have Trick, and that I'm probably going to go for it on that turn. But this still is okay for me, because at least I have some kind of a choice item that I can threaten Sigilyph with on a later turn. So he is going to, I believe, Volt Switch here? No, he goes for Scald. And I believe that's going to seal the game, because that's going to allow me to go out into my Virizion. And he's forcing the Sigilyph here on the Leaf Blade. But like I said, it's not really going to matter, because I do have Stone Edge, as I'm able to thankfully connect. And that's going to be it for game 6 here, because I can easily tank any move and just go for Leaf Blade and knock out the Lantern. So I feel like this game was heavily skewed in my favor. I definitely made a misplay or two along the way, but the matchup was just so good for me that there was really no way I could lose it. So that means we are going to be going to game 7, Generation 2. It was quite a long one, but we'll power through it. All right, folks, here we are, the final battle. So this is taking place in Generation 2. These are typically very long battles. This is the first generation that introduced items, so leftovers is pretty much on everything. Also take into consideration that Gang and I had been playing for about 2 hours now, and it was quite late for him. So, there were a few misplays on both parts, but anyways, my team was Espeon, Lantern, Ampharos, Skarmory, Flareon, and Hitmonchan. So I actually had a pretty decent core going into this, so I felt very comfortable in this battle. Either way, he's going to start off with a Azumarill versus my Espeon. I believe my set was Substitute, Growth, Baton Pass. Regardless, I didn't want to risk taking an attack here. I figured I could just pivot out into my Lantern, as Gang is going to go for Toxic. And this is going to give me an opportunity to just throw off a Thunder, as I'm able to connect on the Magneton, and I get a Paralysis. So once this turn ends, I see that there's no leftovers on Magneton, and that basically tells me that he's the Magnet set, meaning that he's got no recovery and no rest, sleep, talk. So I know that Ampharos is a perfect response to this. It doesn't take very much from any of its attacks, and basically here I can just start throwing off Hidden Power Ice, trying to get damage maybe on a potential ground type, as Gang is going to opt to throw off a Thunder Wave, which makes sense. You know, if I'm not rest talk, then getting Ampharos paralyzed is definitely helpful for him. But I'm actually going to reveal rest pretty soon, I believe. Maybe on this next turn here. Let's see. I do go for rest. And he is going to take this as an opportunity to pivot out into his Steelix. But thankfully, I do pull the Hidden Power Ice, so Ampharos is definitely putting in some good work here at the start of the battle. I'm going to go into my Skarmory, and this set is so dirty. So, the set is like Rest and Thief with a Mint Berry. For those who don't know, Mint Berry is basically like the modern equivalent of a Chesto Berry, so you would wake up after using Rest. And what's so nice about it is that after resting and you burning your berry, you can then thief something, typically leftovers, and then you get rid of their recovery, and now your Skarmory has recovery, so it's a very dirty set. Skarmory is definitely one of the better Pokemon in Generation 2. So he's going to Pulse Switch into Magneton as I go for Whirlwind, just trying to get an idea of what else is on his team. As Noctowl was revealed, and that gives me a perfect switch into my Ampharos, knowing that Hypnosis is probably going to come out. And my Ampharos is putting in hella work. It's just always pulling the Hidden Power Ice when I need it. So, very clutch, definitely. He's going to go for Earthquake. And again, I'm never going to let him get a chance to Earthquake my Ampharos. I go for Drill Peck here, maybe expecting some kind of a switch out. But Roar comes out, not a huge deal. This is going to give me a chance to throw off a Surf. As Jumpluff comes out, and I'm immediately thinking this is going to be like Leech Seed, something annoying. So I believe I switch out. Yeah, I Pulse Switch into my Flareon, and on this turn, I predicted the Azumarill to come in, so I kind of took a gamble. It did not work out for me, though. I went for Zap Cannon, which is super nutty. It would have done not very much damage, but getting a Paralysis on an Azumarill would have been very helpful. Either way, it does not work out for me, so I'm going to have to be forced out into my Ampharos here, knowing that I can take any attack coming from Azumarill. And I believe I just continue going for HP Ice. Basically just trying to put some pressure on the Steelix if it tries to switch in. So I'm going to throw off Thunderbolt now because it's looking like he's just trying to sack off his Magneton, which is exactly what he does, so one more Thunderbolt will do the job. And I believe here I go for a little bit of a mix-up, yeah. So he goes back out into Steelix, and I'm like, okay, well, I've gone into my Skarmory every single time. I instead decided to go out into Hitmonchan, revealing my final team member, as he reveals Raikou. And at this point, I'm a little bit scared, because Raikou is one of the best Pokemon in Generation 2. Like the big contenders in OU are like Snorlax, Cloyster, and mostly like Raikou and Zapdos. Those electric types are very threatening in the meta. So I know that I have to preserve my Ampharos' health so that I can take care of this Raikou. Knowing that though, I'm not really afraid of anything that it would go for on Hitmonchan. It's got a pretty decent Spinef stat. So I have to throw off a high jump kick, and I get 40% off on Noctowl, which is definitely helpful. They're going to Pulse Switch into Jumpluff, knowing that I can just stay in and go for another one. Drill Peck won't do very much damage, and Hypnosis doesn't really matter, because I actually have Sleep Talk on my Hitmonchan. It's Rest Talk. I think it was like Rest Talk, high jump kick, and some other move. Either way, I'm going to be scared out here. I'm going to Pulse Switch into my Skarmory, as thankfully I dodge a Leech Seed, and here the Mint Berry definitely comes in handy. Because I dodged the first Sleep Powder, and I'm not sure if Gang knew that I was Mint Berry or not, because he ends up going for Sleep Powder on the following turn, and that's going to work out wonderfully for me, because I wake up instantly, go for Drill Peck, and I now have 2 KOs on the board, so it's looking very tough for him at this point. Ampharos is going to come back out, and I think here he goes for a switch into Steelix, as I go for Thunderbolt, trying to get a Para on that Raikou, slowing it down, making it easier for my team to deal with. So this turn, I Pulse Switch and Skarmory on the Steelix, and then I'm forced out by the prospect of Hypnosis. That's going to allow Lantern back in, and I think I call a switch to Raikou here, and I go for Ice Beam, yeah. Trying to get a freeze. I know it sounds kind of degenerate, but, you know, anything to speed up the battle is always appreciated. So I believe here he just goes for Thunderbolt as I Pulse Switch into my Ampharos, and we're kind of just sitting here with the electric types, you know, playing the stall war. This is Gen 2. It's a very slow meta, unfortunately. Neither of us have hazards, so it's going to be a slow game all around. Skarmory's going to come back in on this Steelix, and this is the chance I have now to thief the Steelix, and this is huge. Because I get rid of passive recovery on the Steelix, meaning that it's going to be very pressured every time Ampharos goes for Hidden Power Ice. And it's also nice because now my Skarmory is relieved of some pressure by gaining leftovers, making its job of checking the Azumarill or the Noctowl a whole lot easier. So I'm going to be stealing the leftovers there as he goes for Roar, and there's really no reason to predict here. I'm just going to go back out into my Skarmory, not going to risk that Ampharos, as I can throw off a Drill Peck trying to pressure the rest of his team. He's going to go back into his Noctowl as I go Flareon, trying to, like, sack it to Hypnosis. I don't mind if Flareon's asleep. As I believe here, I decided there's no reason to predict. Just throw off a Fire Blast, I could get a burn. Just getting any kind of damage on his team is definitely going to help me towards my end goal. Gonna go back out into Lantern here, not wanting anything else to take a Toxic. And then I believe I just throw off a Surf here, knowing that Raikou is likely to come out. Yeah, as I get a crit, which is huge because I'm basically pressuring this Raikou into a position where it has to go for rest. And if I get Raikou asleep, I can figure out what kind of set it is. Is it Rest Talk with Hidden Power Ice and Thunderbolt? Or is it Rest with no Sleep Talk? I still don't know at this point. I've only seen Thunderbolt. So I believe I just pull switch into Ampharos. Yeah, not wanting to risk anything. Just, taking the very safe route. And here, I believe I just throw off Hidden Power Ice, trying to catch Steelix upon switching, and basically just pressuring this Raikou again into a situation where it has to go for Rest. So he's going to reveal Rest on this turn, and I go for Hidden Power Ice, and I can't recall, I might stay in here for a few turns, or I go for a switch. I think I do end up staying in, so I'll speed this up a little bit, just trying to, get an idea of what he wants to do while Raikou's asleep, and I still haven't seen Sleep Talk yet, so I'm keeping that in mind as well. He's going to go for Rest again as I go for another Hidden Power Ice, I believe. No, I go for T-Bolt. And I think right here I pull a switch out. Yeah, so I realized that Raikou's asleep. This is an opportunity for me to try to set up with Espeon. So I'm going to go for Growth on the switch out. And then I go for Sub in the following turn, expecting a Toxic to come out. But Gang makes a different play, goes for Light Screen, which makes sense. It's kind of stopping or negating that growth boost that I got. So I'm going to go for Psychic, trying to get some kind of a drop on it. Doesn't really pan out for me. And I think I go for Substitute, maybe expecting another Toxic. But again, he's playing it smart. Just goes for Surf to break that Substitute. So I see this as an opportunity to Baton Pass out into my Ampharos. And I'm going to call the switch into Steelix here by going for Hidden Power Ice in the next turn. Not going to do a whole lot of damage, but any damage on the Steelix is appreciated because, again, it has no more leftovers, so it's getting whittled down very quickly. Skarmory's going to come back out, and I think here I'd pull a double. Yeah, I'm like, okay, you have to go out into Noctowl or you have to go out into Raikou. You can't just sit in here with Steelix. And that's going to allow me to throw off a high jump kick as I get a crit, which is definitely unfortunate, but I don't know how much it really mattered. If he went for Hypnosis, again, I have Sleep Talk, so I can kind of, play around with that. And Drill Peck doesn't do a whole lot of damage to Hitmonchan, so if anything, I feel like it just kind of expedited the game, but, it's definitely unfortunate for Gang. He's going to go out into a Azumarill, and at this point, I really don't see a reason to, let Hitmonchan get Toxicked. Just going to go out into Lantern. Don't want to be forced to rest with that thing. And I think here I go for Thunder. Yeah, again, not trying to predict anything. If he leaves in a Azumarill, off a tilt or something, then that's huge for me. I just speed up the game even more. Gonna go back out into Ampharos here. As I believe what I do here is I just try to whittle him down into a position where he needs to go for Rest again, and I'm going to use that opportunity when he does to go into my Hitmonchan. So I believe here he goes for Rest. Well, he actually gets paralyzed. He might have gone for Rest on that turn. I'm not sure. But either way, I can go for a high jump kick now. He's forced to rest on this turn, and this is going to allow me to just start throwing off kicks. He doesn't really have any kind of counterplay at this point, so he's just going to have to go into a Azumarill to take these hits, as it's taking them well, but it's not doing a whole lot of damage in response. And here I unfortunately get another crit.
Another one.
Which, it definitely matters, because Azumarill could have stuck around, but at this point, it's looking very bad for Gang. I really don't see a way he can even win this game at this point. So if anything, we're just speeding up the process. Steelix not going to be able to take the high jump kick, and then it's going to come down to Raikou versus the rest of my team. So here I kind of go into Ampharos, kind of just screw around a little bit. I'll speed this part up because it's kind of repetitive. He's kind of going for Crunch, fishing for Spadefs. I'm just trying to stall him out of PP. A little bit degenerate. Was kind of looking for a 6-0 maybe, but then I realized, okay, I don't have to do this. Like, this is stupid. Let me just pull a switch. I go into Lantern. I just sack the thing off to Thunderbolt, because basically all I wanted was a free switch into Hitmonchan. I know it takes 2 Thunderbolts, and I know that I can threaten the 3-hit KO with high jump kick, so that's exactly what's going to play out. Gonna go for high jump kick, and then I'm going to seal the game with another one in the following turn, and that's going to be it. So I definitely feel like Gang might have been a little bit tilted, or a little bit probably just tired, because we'd been playing for 2.5 hours by this point, because Generation 2 just takes forever. So, this game, a little bit anticlimactic. I would have liked to see a little bit of a closer final game, but overall, very happy with how I played. I think I got very fortunate in terms of my core and how I was able to combat his threats. But that's going to be it for this episode. I'm actually trying to schedule my week 2 matches for the RBCT, so once I do those, I'll be doing some coverage on those, and I'm also going to try to get another episode of Pokemon Clover out today. So hope you guys have been enjoying. Please hit the like button if you're enjoying it. Definitely helps my channel grow. I'm trying to get to 100 subs. Like I said, if I hit 100, I'll probably get a webcam, and we'll do some fun stuff with that. So that's going to be it today, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Peace.